Something comfortable. I just wanted something that's a little bit more formal. So, Gnomes, today we want to talk about something that's really relevant and that we've just been seeing
More and more
more and
frequently.
more of, and actually having experience on the two extreme sides, clients that are doing it really well. And if I say really well, I'm talking from a recruitment agency's perspective, and then some clients that don't. And I think it's not a case of don't do it, you shouldn't be doing it, telling clients off. It's just this is the repercussion of the actions that you're taking, that they might not, they might think that they're doing a great thing for themselves, but I think they're shortchanging themselves in the market a little bit.
Yeah, their perception.
Correct. And a few other things, not just the perception side of it. We won't name names, but there's literally the most recent example was this morning,
Yeah.
that when you Taylor, you went to meet with a candidate for coffee that was interested in another job that you were looking at. So the conversation was just a normal catch up conversation. And then this candidate proceeded to tell you that
Well, yeah, he was asking if this is a normal process of,
for recruiters,
is this what it's like? And I was a bit taken back. I'm like, well, no, it's not. But he
at
didn't
first
have,
explain the process.
yeah, he didn't have a great experience. So this candidate was headhunted for a local role, and he had a chat with the recruiter about the role. It all sounded good. Anyway, he asked for the position description and a bit more information sent to them by email. Anyway, there was no PD on the email. There was kind of like a disclosure form, or he was like, it was kind of like an NDA, but it wasn't an NDA. But basically, the email was stating that if this agency, this agency, this agency, or this agency contacted this candidate, they were not to progress or speak about the role in any matter, specifically with that other agency, because he signed a form to say that he will be or exclusively represented by. But the way that it was worded, it was very like, you can't do this, you agree to this, you can't do that. If you sign this, then you agree to these terms, and gave the candidate an ick straight away, again with the agency, but with the client that they were recruiting for. So that candidate already was like, oh, well, sure about that. Like, it doesn't seem like the right way to go around it. It just, yeah, he said it was a bit desperate and didn't like, morally, it wasn't like what he wanted to, like, we work completely different to that. We don't really work with clients who go out to 6 agencies at a time, because it's not the way that we work.
Yeah. So I can understand both sides.
Mm.
I can understand that the client thinks the more agencies I have working on the position, the better for me. The more candidates I'll get, the more eyes I'll get on the role, the better our recruitment process will be. I understand that side of it. And also, it's a competitive market in terms of recruitment agencies competing for roles because you want to fill the role ahead of another agency and get the payment, because you don't get paid until you actually place a candidate. So I understand it from the client side. I understand it from the recruiter side as well, because all of a sudden you've got this job and you've got 5 other agencies recruiting exactly the same position in a pool that's this big. It's small pool on the Sunshine Coast. So that agent is also trying to protect themselves in terms of work with me. I've spoken to you about the job. Morally, that's usually accepted with candidates, that if an agency speaks to you about a role first and they represent the role to you first, that's the agency that you go with. You can't force somebody to do that. It's a it's a human thing. It's a respect thing that is almost an unwritten rule in recruitment. But I do understand why the agent,
They want to protect
I
themselves.
want to protect that. Is that the best representation of the client? No. Because the first thing you're doing is, I found a candidate, now I've got to secure that candidate. I've told them about the company. So say it was Montague Group Recruiting. We've gone out to 6 agencies. All of a sudden, this candidate's getting 5 people contacting him. And the first guy that contacted him said, don't speak to anybody else. You only speak to me. Like, why is this recruitment process holding me captive?
Mm.
So, and he said it was a very bad experience for him. So now the connection is bad experience with the recruiter plus bad experience with the client.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be applying for that position because his experience, without even speaking to the client, has been a really negative one. And that's his choice. Like, he can still decide, no, I am going to speak to the client. But I think clients are losing good candidates because good candidates work. They're in a job. They are not, very rarely are they out on the market. So that candidate is not desperate to find a job. So if his experience is like, oh, this is not a good experience for me, he doesn't have to do that interview.
Yeah, they're not losing anything.
They're not losing anything, where the client is now losing a really good candidate that could have been a potential for that role. And it could have been a really good match, but because of the way the recruitment process was done, that's negative. And the recruitment process is driven by the client. If the client went out, like, we normally compete with at least 2 other agencies. That's pretty normal in our industry. If it's one other agency, that's great. But we usually compete with 2 others outside of government. And that's competition. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I know who the other agencies are. I will check with candidates. Have you heard about this company? And if so, was it through these agencies for this specific role, or was it a long time ago? And I give the agencies the respect they deserve because they're working as hard as I am. I'm not signing a candidate up to go, you're not allowed to speak to anybody else.
Yeah,
No,
it
we're not.
was quite confronting, I think, because they've never experienced anything like that before.
I had many years ago, I was recruiting for a national company and I met a candidate. The candidates, it was a technical role, and the candidate had to do a technical test as part of their application process on my side to send to the client. I got the candidate in, we spoke about the position, ran through everything. He actually did the technical test for me. And I submitted the candidate. The client came back and said to me, I've already got this candidate. They don't have the technical test, but they have the candidate's application. And because the other agency was first, even though it wasn't a full application, they will be going with the other agency. Well, of course, I was like, how did my candidate not know that their CV, that they applied for this role? Because I sat down literally in front of them and we worked through it. Rang the candidate, he had no idea that his
No
resume had
way.
been sent through. So they sent it through without his permission. They then proceeded to send him an email to say that if he does not interview through the other agency, so the other agency sent him an email, they will blacklist him in the whole of Brisbane and he will never work again.
No.
Yes, because he signed a form right in the beginning of the recruitment process saying that he's okay to be represented by this agency
For other roles that
for
he's
other
not even
roles.
aware of.
Correct.
Wow.
I lost that candidate. I was really upset about it. But then, bigger picture, I stepped back. I rang the client. I said to the client, this is what's happened. You know that I haven't done anything wrong. In fact, I actually followed the process and represented the candidate the right way. The client acknowledged it, but said that unfortunately that's part of the process. So that's why
That's so bad.
recruitment has such a bad name, is because things like that happen and then they're allowed to happen. And that was just a bad experience for everybody. The candidate ended up getting the job and working, and he then never worked with the agency that actually submitted him and found him the job.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like, that's not an isolated incident.
No,
You
it
hear it a
happens.
lot,
Yep.
but
And as
yeah,
candidates, ultimately, you have the choice. You can decide, how are they going to blacklist you in the whole of Brisbane? Like, that's
yeah, they can't.
ridiculous. That's not going to happen.
That's
Correct. That was literally the wording. We're going to blacklist you for the whole of Brisbane.
That's just blackmailing someone,
Correct.
literally.
So candidates still have the choice. And I think competition for recruitment companies is good,
Yeah.
but you don't
There's
have
a
to send
line.
out to six agencies, especially not if you're looking at a really, really specific skill set that's not that common. Like this guy was contacted by all six agencies because he had a specific skill set and because the area that they're recruiting in is this big. So you're getting six agencies ringing you for exactly the same position because there's only two candidates that can do that job in the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think it's about having a balance. And again, going back to what we spoke about right in the beginning, building a relationship with a recruitment consultant so they know who you are, what you're looking for, they represent you as if they're working for your company internally. They represent you out into the market so that there's longevity for the organization that they represent. Candidates have a good experience, happy to go back, even if they don't get the interview or they don't get the role, because the process was a one that I think a one of respect, not just rushing to the bottom line as quickly as possible, but respecting the players on the way.
But also respect and taking into consideration everything about that candidate, knowing what their motivations are. So then we can represent them in their best and our best ability to the client to set them up for success as well. If you're playing the short game and fighting agencies for each and every candidate out there, it's very rushed. Like, it's a rushed environment. You don't really feel like you have enough time to get enough information because they're already fed up with the six other agents that have already applied, like that have already contacted them. So, yeah, I think it is, once you find a good agent that can represent you, is excited to represent you, is excited by your brand, is excited by your roles, gets along with the people within the organization too. So we can vouch for the culture, the people who are in there, the exciting things that are happening. And our job is to make someone excited about a job, but we can't do that unless we're excited about it. And then vice versa. Like, we can't be excited about a candidate to a client unless we're excited about the candidate because we know that they can do this job. So,
Correct. They tick the boxes. And that
where,
might take a day or two extra in the recruitment process, but
yeah,
on the long term, that's a good recruitment process because you're getting the right person, people fit into the people fit. Because ultimately, it's not a box fitting into a little square hole, it's a person fitting into a people environment. So
exactly.
it was
And
just evident today.
yeah, but also on that too, you don't, the client, if you are working with like one really good agent, the client will get really quality applications
Should.
over quantity. Where if
Should.
you go out to six, you're going to get quantity.
Yes.
You may get quality in there, but will they all be quality? Probably not, because people will just be desperate to submit someone to say, yep, we've submitted for that role, instead of being like, hey, nobody worth representing, they've already been contacted.
Yeah. And what we've done in the past, even if the person applied directly and we were the only agency working on the position, and we spoke to a candidate that had recently applied to the client directly for another position, we would highlight that to the client if we know to go, they're on your database, they're really
Yeah.
good, you should contact them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not just a rush to the bottom line every time. It's a building a relationship, building a
Long term.
long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a moan about recruitment and how we are seen. We should be seen as an extension of your talent team in the roles where they are struggling or if they don't have the time, but we should be representing you the same way your talent team would be representing you in the market. Yep. So that
We
there's
have the passion.
longevity. I have a passion for it and have a passion for finding you the best person possible in the market at the moment. So if you do want to go out to a few agencies, I think three Otherwise,
Depending on
it's
the role as well.
yeah,
If it is
yeah,
a really specialized role, or if it's like a project manager or a software developer or something like that, people do have their different
areas. Yes,
like niches, and they have different people that they've networked through as well. So if it's like a generic role, that might work better depending on how many you go out for. But again, it would have to be in quite a wider, like it could be in Sydney or something like that.
yeah,
But to do something locally here on the Sunshine Coast for a specific role going out to six agent, it just doesn't work.
no, that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not a great look. It's yeah, a bit desperate. And we've spoken about this before, that yeah, it does show a little bit desperate, but also I don't want to say not trustworthy, but there seems to be no trust with one agency or another. It's like, hey, yeah, I'll just flood it out and see what comes, instead of yeah, having one really good ad that attracts people, have one really good agent who has, the database behind them, who has the connections, who can do the headhunting and things like that. I don't know if that made any sense, but
Yeah, it did. It did. Like at the end of the day, it's like we're not afraid of competition, but as
no.
soon as the competition becomes ridiculous, we
Yeah.
actually opt out.
Yeah.
We're like, no, you've got enough people on the market. And remember that we're not just working on one position, we're working on three or four others. So you, as a recruiter, you go to focus on where you can add the most value, and that value can be added back to you, be that longevity with the client or money or a placement or actually finding just the right candidate for that role. So if I'm competing with five other agents here for a role that I know is so difficult to find, or I'm one of two in a role here that's also pretty specific, but I can really focus on that, I'd
I know
focus
which one
there.
I'll choose.
Yeah, and that's the other side of it, where recruiters, when the market's not busy, they will focus on anything. As soon as the market starts getting busier like it is, then you focus on where's the return on investment. And the return on investment is not just a monetary investment and return. There's way more things that you consider. So just maybe food for thought. We've never
If it
spoken about
works for
this.
you, that's great. If it doesn't, or if you are noticing a few things that just aren't going right, maybe step back, have a look at the process and redefine it if you have to.
Yep, and build those relationships with those two or three agencies
Yeah.
that can really look after you and really understand what you're looking for.
Yeah. The ones that will have your back through thick and thin.
That's it. And that's us. That's our rant for the day.
Cut.